She thought her son was just big and happy. She laughed at the warnings. She ignored the signs. Until the day his body gave up. Now she sits by the hospital bed, praying for a second chance. But some chances never come back.
In the warm, quiet town of Augusta, Georgia, tucked between rows of maple trees and brick houses, lived Melissa Carter, a 36-year-old single mother and her only son, Ethan. Their small apartment on Maple Street wasn't fancy, but it was home. And for Melissa, Ethan was everything. Life hadn't been easy. Melissa's husband left her when Ethan was just a baby. Since then, it was just the two of them, mother and son against the world. She worked long hours at Terry's Fresh Mart, a local grocery store, often coming home with sore feet and aching shoulders. But every time she opened the front door and saw Ethan's smiling face, it felt like the world paused. "Mommy!" he would shout, running to hug her with all his softness. "Hey, my big boy," she'd say, squeezing him tightly. "What did you eat today?" Their bond was deep, but it was also wrapped in something silent and dangerous. Melissa showed love with food. It was how she made up for being tired, how she made Ethan smile after a bad day at school, how she comforted him when he cried, and how she celebrated when he did something good. Birthdays, holidays, weekends, even just Fridays, always had special treats. Fried chicken, pancakes with syrup, cheesy pizza, creamy ice cream, soda, and big bowls of pasta. If Ethan asked, Melissa gave. She couldn't say no. She called it happy plates because whenever Ethan cleaned his plate, he clapped and laughed and said, "This plate is happy, Mommy." Ethan's laugh was gold to her, but slowly, beneath that laughter, something else was growing. By the time Ethan turned 10, he weighed nearly 160 pounds, more than some adult women. His face was round and puffy, his stomach pushed against his shirts, and he avoided mirrors. His breath became heavy when walking short distances. Stairs made him sweat. Running? He didn't even try. One evening, Melissa brought home Ethan's favorite, crispy wings with honey glaze and loaded fries. Dinner time, baby. Ethan jumped up from the couch, where he had been watching YouTube on his tablet, and rushed to the kitchen. But halfway there, he stopped and bent over, panting. "Ethan?" Melissa's voice rose. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, Mommy, just tired," he said, wiping his forehead. She looked at him, really looked, for the first time in weeks. His cheeks were red, his eyes looked tired, his belly shook as he tried to breathe normally. But she forced a smile. "Well, your wings are waiting. Come eat." He smiled back, but something flickered behind his eyes, something Melissa refused to name. 2 weeks later, during a parent-teacher conference, Melissa sat in a tiny plastic chair in front of Ethan's teacher, Miss Grace, and the school nurse, Nurse Daniels. "We wanted to talk about Ethan's health," Miss Grace said gently. "He's been struggling in gym. He gets tired quickly, sometimes dizzy." Nurse Daniels added, "We also checked his BMI during school health week. He's well above the average. Obesity at this age can lead to serious issues down the road, ma'am." Melissa's face flushed. "He's just a big boy. He's healthy. He doesn't get sick." The nurse handed her a pamphlet. "I understand, but it's more serious than it looks. Childhood obesity can cause high blood pressure, heart problems, diabetes." "Okay, I get it," Melissa cut her off, stuffing the paper in her bag. But in truth, she didn't get it. Or maybe she just didn't want to. That night, Melissa sat on the couch while Ethan ate his second slice of chocolate cake. His face was joyful, his hands messy with frosting, and his shirt had ketchup stains from dinner. "Mom, this is the best day ever," he said with his mouth full. She smiled, but her heart was heavy. Her mind echoed the nurse's words. High blood pressure, diabetes, heart problems. But how could something that made her child so happy be dangerous? She walked to the kitchen and dumped the rest of the cake into the trash. Ethan looked at her confused. "Why'd you do that?" "Because," she paused, I want you to stay happy and healthy. He pouted. But I'm already healthy. Melissa didn't answer because in that moment, for the first time ever, she wasn't so sure. The following weeks passed like shadows, quiet, unnoticed, but slowly creeping in. Melissa started paying attention, even if she didn't admit it out loud. She noticed the little things. Ethan wheezed after short walks. He struggled to tie his shoes. He groaned while getting out of bed, but worst of all, he had stopped playing. Ethan used to love playing pretend. He'd run around the living room with toy swords, build forts out of pillows, or challenge her to dance-offs. But now, all he wanted was to sit with snacks and watch videos. One night, as Melissa scrolled through her phone, she came across a video that made her stop cold. My son died of childhood obesity, a mother's story. She hesitated, then clicked. The video showed a mother not too different from her, crying beside a small grave. Pictures flashed of a happy, chubby boy with ice cream and soda, just like Ethan. Then came hospital clips, oxygen masks, heart monitors, beeping machines. Melissa's hands shook. Her breathing became shallow, the screen blurred with tears. She ran to Ethan's room. He was asleep, snoring softly, surrounded by empty chip bags and candy wrappers. His chest rose and fell heavily. She dropped to her knees beside the bed and held his hand. I'm sorry, baby. Mommy didn't know. I promise I'll do better. But it was too late for words. 2 days later, it happened. It was field day at school, a day meant for fun and games. Melissa had packed Ethan a healthy lunch, apple slices, a water bottle, and a turkey sandwich on wheat bread. Ethan didn't complain, he just smiled. At school, the sun was bright, and the field was full of children running and laughing. Ethan stood on the sidelines, nervous but excited. He had signed up for the sack race. His friends cheered him on. Go, Ethan, go! The whistle blew. He jumped once, twice, then stumbled and fell. But he didn't get up. He didn't laugh. He didn't even move. Ethan, the coach shouted, running over. Students froze. Teachers rushed in. Melissa's phone rang at work. Your son has collapsed. We're calling an ambulance. The race against time. Melissa arrived at the hospital in a blur. Sirens still echoed in her ears. Nurses ran down the halls. Ethan was wheeled away on a stretcher, his face pale, tubes on his nose, his body still. Heart strain, the doctor said. He collapsed due to a combination of obesity, overheating, and stress on his heart. We're stabilizing him now. Melissa couldn't breathe. She wanted to scream, cry, rewind time. But all she could do was sit in that white hospital chair and pray. Please don't take my baby. Please. I'll do better, I swear. A nurse came by, holding a form and saying softly, Do you have a history of diabetes or heart issues in your family? Melissa shook her head. No, he was just chubby, that's all. But her voice cracked, because even she didn't believe that anymore. In the waiting room. Hours passed. Machines beeped behind cold walls. Other families came and went. Melissa sat staring at the vending machine in the corner, the same kind she used to let Ethan run to. Candy bars, soda, chips. Suddenly, she hated it, all of it. She stood up and slammed her hand against the machine. Why do they even let this trash near kids? She shouted. Nurses looked at her but said nothing. She sank to the floor and wept. This wasn't a random accident. This wasn't bad luck. This was years of choices catching up. The day was bright. The sky was clear. The kind of day kids dream of. A perfect day for field day. At Oakwood Elementary, the schoolyard buzzed with energy. Balloons danced in the wind. Music blasted from speakers, and children ran around in colorful team shirts. Ethan wore his oversized blue shirt with Team Lightning printed across the front. His belly peeked out from under it when he raised his hands, but he didn't care. He was excited. Melissa stood by the fence, watching proudly. She had taken the day off work just to see her boy in action. He had begged her the night before, "Mommy, come watch me race, okay? I want to make you proud." She had smiled and kissed his forehead. "I'm already proud, baby." Now, she watched as he lined up with other kids for the potato sack race. He looked nervous, bouncing slightly with excitement. His cheeks were already red from the sun. The whistle blew. "Go, go, go!" The kids hopped forward in their sacks, laughing and stumbling. Ethan jumped once, twice, then paused. His face twisted. He grabbed his chest. Melissa's heart dropped. He tried to jump again, but his body gave out. He fell to the ground with a heavy thud and didn't get up. Screams and silence. "Ethan?" a student called out. No answer. "Coach, he's not moving." In seconds, teachers rushed over. Coach Ray knelt beside him, shouting his name, tapping his face. Melissa broke into a sprint. Her legs moved before her brain could catch up. She pushed through the crowd, dropped to her knees beside her son. "Ethan, baby, look at me." His eyes fluttered. His lips trembled. Then he let out a soft wheeze and passed out. Panic exploded. "Call 911!" someone screamed. Melissa cradled his head. "Please, baby, stay with me. Please." Her voice cracked. In the distance, the ambulance siren wailed like a scream sent from heaven. On the edge, paramedics lifted Ethan onto the stretcher. Tubes were quickly connected. Oxygen mask, IV drip. Melissa rode in the ambulance, holding his hand and whispering prayers. "He's just a kid," she kept saying. "Just a chubby little boy. He can't be this sick." But in her heart, she knew. This wasn't sudden. This was years in the making. Emergency room doctors moved fast. Tests were run, blood samples taken, monitors beeped like ticking bombs. Dr. Alvarez came out, his face serious. "Mrs. Carter, Ethan has suffered a cardiac strain, most likely from severe obesity-related stress. His body is struggling, especially his heart and lungs. We're stabilizing him, but this is very serious." Melissa blinked, unable to speak. I thought he was healthy. He never really got sick." Dr. Alvarez shook his head. "Sometimes the damage builds silently. His weight has put enormous pressure on his heart. It's been happening for years." Melissa collapsed into the waiting chair, her world spinning. She remembered the sugary cereal, the late-night fries, the skipped doctor appointments, the second servings, the happy plates. Every moment hit her like a slap. A mother's guilt. In the ICU, Ethan lay still. Machines beeped, wires ran across his small body. His chest rose and fell slowly. Melissa held his hand, her tears dripping onto the blanket. "You didn't ask for this," she whispered. "You trusted me, and I failed you." The nurse walked in, softly adjusted Ethan's mask, then gently placed a pamphlet on the table. Understanding Childhood Obesity, What Every Parent Must Know. Melissa looked at the title, then at her son. She didn't need a pamphlet anymore. She needed a miracle. The walls of room 206B were painted soft yellow, probably to make things feel less scary for the kids. But to Melissa Carter, those walls were prison bars. She hadn't left the room in hours. She sat curled in the corner chair watching Ethan sleep. His face was pale. His breathing was slow and shallow. A tube ran from his nose. His chest rose and fell in rhythm with the soft beep, beep, beep of the heart monitor. She hated that sound. She hated how it felt like a countdown. Doctors came and went. Nurses checked vitals, adjusted wires, recorded notes. But Ethan didn't move. He was unconscious, stuck somewhere between rest and reality. Melissa whispered to him every few minutes, "I'm here, baby. Mommy's not going anywhere. You're going to get better, right?" But she didn't know if he could hear her. A 3-5 points, a hard truth. Dr. Alvarez returned in the evening, clipboard in hand. "Melissa," he said gently, "I need to speak with you." She stood up, wiping her face. "Ethan's vitals are stable for now," the doctor said, "but we have to be honest. His heart is very weak. He has elevated blood pressure, insulin resistance, early signs of fatty liver. It's a classic case of pediatric metabolic syndrome." She stared at him, lost. I don't understand. He's just 10. The doctor nodded sadly. "And his body is reacting like he's 50. If things don't improve drastically, there could be long-term damage, or worse." Melissa's legs nearly gave out. She sat down hard. "What can I do? What do I do to fix this?" she asked, her voice cracking. Dr. Alvarez looked her in the eye. "He needs a full lifestyle change. Food, exercise, routine, everything. And most importantly, he needs you to lead it." Melissa nodded slowly. She didn't need convincing anymore. This wasn't about snacks. This wasn't about spoiling a child. This was a battle for his life. Is my son gonna die? The lights were dim in Ethan's room that night. A cartoon played softly on the TV. Melissa sat by his bed, stroking his hand. Then something incredible happened. His fingers twitched. She gasped, "Ethan?" His eyelids fluttered, then opened, just a little. "Mom?" She jumped to her feet. "Ethan, oh my God, baby, you're awake." He looked around weakly, confused. His voice was barely a whisper. What happened?" "You fainted, baby, at school. You're at the hospital now." Ethan paused. Then he whispered something that crushed her soul. "Am I gonna die, Mommy?" Melissa choked. She wanted to say, "A spark of hope." The next day, the nutritionist arrived, a kind woman named Ms. Harper. She brought colorful charts and gentle words. "We're going to teach Ethan about food," she said. "The kind that makes his body strong, not just full." Melissa sat with Ethan and listened as Ms. Harper showed pictures of healthy meals, simple workouts, even fun games for fitness. Ethan was quiet, nodding slowly. "I want to try," he said. Melissa smiled through her tears. "We'll do it together." And for the first time in a long time, hope entered room 206B. 2 days later, the hospital staff moved Ethan to a shared room. Room 213A, the pediatric recovery wing. Melissa wasn't sure she liked the idea at first. But when she saw the other occupant, she paused. The boy in the next bed was about Ethan's age, maybe a year older, but much leaner. His name was Tyrell. He had sharp eyes, a quiet smile, and a little scar above his left eyebrow. "Hey," Tyrell said when Ethan was wheeled in. "You look like you just lost a boxing match." Ethan chuckled weakly. "Felt like one." That was all it took. In the quiet days that followed, they became friends. Gaming and grit. Melissa brought Ethan's old tablet from home. Most of his apps were games, but now she deleted all the junk food ads, soda-themed games, and Candy Crush knockoffs. Instead, she downloaded a fitness app for kids. Colorful, animated, and fun. One evening, Tyrell scooted his chair closer. "You trying to play?" he asked. "Sure," Ethan smiled. They started with a light game, then talked about school, favorite superheroes, and cartoons. But soon the conversation shifted. "How long you been here?" Ethan asked. 3 weeks, Tyrell said. "I used to be like you, bigger, I mean." Ethan blinked. "Really?" Tyrell nodded. "Real big. Couldn't run. Got teased. Couldn't breathe right sometimes. One day I passed out too. That's how I landed here." Ethan was silent. Tyrell looked him in the eye. "It's hard at first, but you fight. You wake up every day and do something better than yesterday. Even if it's just one push-up." "Push-up?" Ethan laughed. "I can't even tie my shoes without sweating." "You will," Tyrell said. "Just don't quit." The mission begins. The next morning, something changed. When breakfast came, oatmeal, fruit, and water, Ethan didn't complain. He looked at Melissa and said, "I'll eat all of it. No sugar, promise." She smiled. "I'm proud of you, baby." He looked at Tyrell. "After breakfast, want to do that stretching thing you showed me?" "You bet," Tyrell grinned. They started small, 10 minutes a day, slow stretches, simple breathing, a short walk around the hallway. Nurses cheered. Doctors smiled. Melissa cried quietly in the restroom every night. Not from fear, but from hope. Conversations that cut deep. Later that evening, Ethan asked Melissa something unexpected. "Mom?" "Yes, baby?" "Why didn't you stop me before I got sick?" Her heart dropped. I didn't know how bad it was. I just wanted you to be happy. I thought giving you what you liked meant love." Ethan looked at her, eyes shining with emotion. "But now I'm hurting." Melissa leaned in, holding his hands. "I know, and I'm sorry, but I'm here now and I'll never make that mistake again." They hugged tightly. Two hearts, promising to fight back together. But what Melissa didn't know was that Ethan's body was still keeping secrets. Silent, dangerous ones. It had been 1 week since the collapse. Ethan was still in the hospital, but everything felt different now. He was awake, alert, and motivated. Every morning he sat up on his bed, stretched and reached for the health journal Miss Harper gave him. He called it the comeback book. Each day had new goals. Eat a full, healthy breakfast, walk the hallway with Mom, try a breathing exercise, learn one new food fact. He smiled more. His voice got stronger. Melissa started feeling like the worst was finally behind them. A team rebuilt. Melissa was changing too. She joined him on walks down the hall. She asked the nutritionist questions. She watched videos about food labels and portion control. She even called her landlord to remove the vending machine from the lobby of their building. No more junk, she said. Not in my home, not near my boy. At night, she would sit beside Ethan's bed and show him pictures of their new grocery list. Brown rice, lean chicken, apples, baby carrots, Greek yogurt, whole grain bread. Wow, Ethan laughed. Where's the pizza? Melissa smiled. Homemade, whole wheat crust, veggies on top. Trust me, you'll love it. He gave a thumbs up. Okay, Mom, let's be strong together. Progress and a shadow. By the 4th week, the doctor approved light physical therapy. Ethan started walking more, standing longer, even doing wall push-ups beside Terrell. The nurses clapped when he did 5 in a row. Melissa cried when he walked the full hallway without stopping. It felt like a miracle. But then, one night, Ethan sat on the bed, pale and sweating. Mom, my chest feels tight. Melissa's smile disappeared. Did you overdo it? I don't know, it hurts. She ran to call the nurse. They checked his vitals, heart rate elevated, blood pressure spiking. A team rushed in. Melissa was pushed out into the hallway. The machine started beeping again. It's not over yet. Dr. Alvarez met her with a serious look. We managed the episode, but... Melissa, this is a warning. His body is fighting hard, but the internal strain is still severe. Even with progress, the years of damage don't disappear in a week. Melissa's world tilted. You said he was improving. He is, but his heart was already at its limit. We're doing everything we can. But you should prepare for anything. She nodded, numb. That night, as Ethan slept, Melissa opened her phone and deleted every old photo of fries, soda, candy, and ice cream. Then she whispered to herself, no more second chances. I have to save him, whatever it takes. The next few days felt like walking on glass. Ethan was back to smiling. But now Melissa watched him like a hawk. Every cough, every yawn, every wince made her chest tighten. The hospital staff assured her that mild setbacks were normal, but those weren't the words she wanted. She wanted certainty. But certainty never comes when you're living on the edge. The slip. It happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. Melissa had stepped out to meet with a dietitian for 20 minutes. When she returned, she found Ethan sipping from a can of orange soda, one a nurse had accidentally placed on his tray. Her heart dropped. Ethan, what is that? He jumped, startled. It was just a little... I was thirsty, Mom. She snatched it from his hands. That's full of sugar. You know better. I'm sorry, he shouted back. I didn't mean to mess up. Tears welled up in his eyes. Melissa froze, realizing how scared he looked. Not because he drank the soda, but because he thought she would stop loving him. She dropped the can and rushed over, hugging him tight. I'm not mad, baby. I'm just scared. I love you no matter what. We're in this together, okay? He sniffed and nodded. I want to get better, Mom. I really do. The heart check. The next morning, they ran more tests. Ethan sat quietly as wires were connected to his chest. Melissa watched the monitor, the lines, the numbers. Dr. Alvarez reviewed the results later that afternoon. There's been improvement in his weight and stamina, he said slowly, but his heart function remains unstable. His left ventricle is weakened. Melissa gripped the arm of the chair. Can it heal? Dr. Alvarez sighed. In some cases, yes, But Ethan's damage is advanced. His body's trying to keep up, but it may not be enough. Melissa stared at her son through the glass window of the hallway. He was trying so hard, smiling through pain, pushing himself, and yet it might not be enough? A silent night. That evening, Ethan spoke softly while Melissa helped him brush his hair. "Mom, what happens if I don't get better?" She froze. "What do you mean?" "I heard the nurse say something about my heart. Is it gonna stop?" Melissa's throat tightened. She sat on the edge of his bed. "No one knows the future, baby. But I do know this. You're the bravest boy I've ever seen, and every moment with you is a blessing." He smiled. She kissed his forehead, especially then. "You've always been perfect to me." But deep in the night, when Ethan finally fell asleep, Melissa stepped outside, placed her back against the wall, and let the tears flow. She had done everything, changed everything, and still, her boy might be slipping away. It was the 5th week in the hospital. Melissa had memorized every beep, every hallway, every doctor's name. Ethan had started drawing again, using crayons and markers to sketch superheroes, himself, even a picture of their home. "When I get out, can we paint my room blue?" he asked one afternoon. "Any color you want, baby," she smiled. "Sky blue, ocean blue, the whole rainbow if you like." He laughed and said, "And I want a punching bag too, so I can keep fighting." Melissa's heart swelled with pride. He was trying. He was really trying. Discharge plans. Dr. Alvarez had given a sliver of good news. "If Ethan's vitals remain stable through the weekend," he said, "he can go home under close monitoring." Melissa nodded. She had already cleared the fridge, donated the junk food, and filled the house with vegetables and protein. New shoes, a fresh notebook for Ethan's comeback plan. She even got his favorite character-themed lunchbox, but this time for sliced cucumbers and baked chicken. She couldn't wait to take him home. The last night. Friday night felt peaceful. Ethan had finished a puzzle with Tyrell before lights out. They high-fived and Tyrell told him, "You're almost free, bro." Melissa tucked Ethan into bed, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Just one more night, and we go home. You ready?" Ethan smiled sleepily. "Yeah, I can't wait to sleep in my bed." He turned over. She turned off the light and sat nearby, humming gently. By midnight, she had dozed off. 3:42 a.m. It started with a single, sharp alarm. Beep, 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 beep. Melissa's eyes shot open. The lights above flickered. Nurses stormed in. Ethan lay still, his chest not rising. "No, no, no!" Melissa screamed. "What's happening?" Dr. Alvarez ran in. "We're losing his pulse." "Ethan!" Melissa rushed forward, but a nurse held her back. "Please, step outside." She fell to the floor just outside the door, hands shaking, praying, screaming, hoping. She heard the paddles. "Clear." Thump. No response. "Clear." Thump. Still flatline. She begged, God, please, please, please. 4:11 a.m. The door opened. Dr. Alvarez stepped out slowly, eyes heavy. Melissa didn't need him to speak. She saw it in his face. Still, she asked, Is he okay? Silence. Then he whispered the words no mother should ever hear. I'm so sorry. A quiet room. Room 213A was silent now. The machines were off. Ethan lay still, looking peaceful, like he was asleep, dreaming of blue walls and punching bags. Melissa climbed onto the bed, held him, rocked him gently. I'm so sorry, baby, she sobbed. I should have seen it sooner. I should have known. Her tears soaked the sheets. Outside the window, the morning sun began to rise. But in Melissa's world, everything went dark. The sky over Augusta was gray the day they buried Ethan. No birds sang, no breeze blew, just silence and sorrow. The small white casket sat at the front of the church, surrounded by flowers Ethan would have loved, sunflowers his favorite. A picture of him stood on an easel beside it, smiling wide, dimples showing, a chubby superhero shirt stretching across his chest. That photo was taken 6 months ago, before the hospital, before the race, before the fall. Melissa sat in the front pew, her face hollow. Her hands trembled in her lap. She had cried so much in the past week it felt like her tears had dried into her skin. Beside her, Miss Grace, the teacher, and Tyrell, the boy from the hospital, sat quietly. His eyes were red. He held a drawing he and Ethan made together. It read, "We don't give up." The pastor's voice. The pastor spoke gently. Ethan was full of joy, full of laughter, full of life, and yes, full of dreams. He didn't get to fulfill them, but in his last days, he tried harder than most adults ever do. He fought. He paused, then looked at the crowd of parents, students, teachers, neighbors. And we must fight too. Heads nodded slowly. Fight the culture that tells us food is love. Fight the myth that chubby means healthy. Fight for our children before the damage is done. Melissa lowered her head and wept silently. The casket was carried by 4 men, including Ethan's school principal. They lowered it gently into the ground. Melissa stepped forward, a single rose in her hand. She knelt beside the grave and whispered, "You were my joy, Ethan. You were enough. I just wish I had known that loving you meant saying no sometimes, that protecting you meant more than giving in." She dropped the rose in. And with that, the boy who once filled her kitchen with laughter and cookie crumbs was gone. That night, candles were lit all over Maple Street. Parents sat with their kids. Fast food bags went into trash bins. Gym memberships were bought. Books on child health were borrowed. Because Ethan's story spread, not just as a tragedy, but as a warning, a lesson. 2 months after Ethan's funeral, Melissa stood in front of a crowd of parents at Oakwood Elementary's auditorium. A microphone trembled in her hand, but her voice was steady. Behind her was a large photo of Ethan smiling and a poster that read, "Not all chubby kids are healthy. Watch this before it's too late." She looked at the crowd, dozens of parents, some clutching their children's hands, some dabbing their eyes, all silent. Then she spoke. Melissa's words. "I used to think giving my son what he wanted made me a good mother. I thought extra fries and soda meant love, that laughter after dessert meant everything was fine. But I was wrong. A quiet sniffle came from the front row. My son Ethan died at 10 years old. Not from violence, not from a disease we couldn't cure. He died from a lifestyle I allowed. From years of too much sugar, too little movement, and too many excuses. She paused. People said he was just a big boy. Teachers warned me, the doctor warned me. I ignored them. Until the day I had to hold my son's cold hand in a hospital bed. A few gasps broke the silence. Some parents began to cry. I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to beg you, please. Don't wait. Don't explain away the signs. Don't trade short-term comfort for long-term pain. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small, beat-up journal, Ethan's comeback book. He wanted to fight, he really did, but his body couldn't keep up with the damage. She held up the book, then set it down gently.
Let Ethan's story be your wake-up call. Look at your child today, not with love-blinded eyes, but with wisdom. And if you see the signs, please change course.
Fight for them while you still can. The message goes viral. A parent filmed the entire speech. Within days, the video exploded online. 2 million views in 72 hours. Thousands of comments. I'm crying. This could be my son. Just cleared our pantry. Thank you, Melissa.
Rest in peace, Ethan. You saved lives.
Schools invited Melissa to speak. Doctors shared the video. Even major TV stations ran the clip. And every time she spoke, she ended with the same powerful words.
Not all chubby kids are healthy. Please, watch this before it's too late.
The moral of the story. Love doesn't always mean saying yes. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is the most loving thing of all. Don't feed your child to the grave. Feed them a future. Thanks for watching, and please like, share, and subscribe to my channel Folktales by Chisom.